What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, I am taking you to the world's top destination. Fashion capital, they're hosting the Olympics this year. The city of love, Paris, France. Let's hop right into it. If you are a US or Canadian citizen, you'll be glad to know that visiting Paris, you are not going to need a visa. If you are visiting for less than 90 days, you are going to enter visa-free. France is at a level 2. This means that you can exercise with caution. However, do keep in mind that it is going to be the Olympics this year. If you are trying to travel during that time, it is going to be very crowded. You are going to want to take some safety precautions because it's going to be so many people. I'm going to give you some more safety tips towards the end of the video as well. Let's talk about how to get to Paris. There are 2 airports. You have Roissy Charles de Gaulle and you have Orly. You are going to be able to typically find cheap flights if you are already in Europe. I was in Spain at the time. If you're flying from the US, those are going to be your 2 main airports. I do want to talk about CDG. The airport, it is okay. There are no restaurants. You're probably like, what? I know for Terminal 2E, people have been complaining that there's no food for purchase in that terminal. I don't know if this is domestic or international. When I first went to Paris, this was like 20 years ago. Customs, immigration are fine. If you're doing Europe travel, you are going to want to think about the Schengen agreement. Sometimes they might ask you how long your stay is going to be. What are your funds looking like? They need to know that you're just not lollygagging around France. I'm not going to say don't come if the funds are insufficient. Insufficient funds, you ain't got no money. I have traveled through Europe extensively, and the only time police stopped me was in Austria and Prague. And it had nothing to do with that. It had to do with pop, pop. They have buses for you to get to the center of Paris. That's a good thing. I would choose the bus. That's going to be a cheap way to go. There's also trains. If you're going to take the taxi, be prepared to pay. Super Shuttle is actually going to be the highest. I've never done Super Shuttle to get to the city center from airport because it's going to cost you. When it comes to Paris, it is divided into different neighborhoods, districts. I do not have the proper French pronunciation. I am sure you all will tell me in the comments, arrondissements, here's the word. And you want to look at staying at the ones that are in central Paris. This is where you're going to be able to get to the tourist attractions easily. You can have the metro as an option to get around, or you can walk. I stayed far out of central Paris, and I do regret that because I was always going back and forth. What I ended up doing was very early leaving my microtel, going to central Paris, and I would just stay there for the entire day. By the end of the day, I'm exhausted, but then I got to travel all the way back because I was far out in some rinkadink area. Those are going to be great areas for you. The 1st, 7th, and 8th. Europe does not disappoint when it comes to hostels here. I have jotted down a few for your consideration. And these are coming from Hostel World, St. Christopher's Inn, and People's Paris Nation. These are both sustainable hostels. It is known that in Paris during the summer, of course, it can get very warm. And I'm not going to say that the French don't believe in AC, but a lot of these places are not going to have air conditioning, especially if you're trying to get an Airbnb. So be mindful. I would be sipping cups of ice to keep me cool. I think in the hostels and hotels, you are going to be able to regulate the temperature. I hope. Summer travel in Paris is a lovely thing. I want to give a shout out to Baker's Books. I always enjoy your thoughtful comments on my videos. If you want to get a shout out, make sure that you subscribe and leave a comment. If you've been to Paris before, give me your tips and what was your experience like. When it comes to the best time to visit, you might be wondering, when should I go? Some people are visiting now during the summer. I think that would be great. It is going to be better weather. Paris, it does get very rainy, so you want to make sure that you are packing with an umbrella. I think August, fall, Christmas is going to be delightful. Europe in Christmas is amazing. I think it depends on your preference. When I went, I had on a sweatshirt. I believe it was spring, and it was very rainy when I went. That could deter from your experience. Later on, I'm going to talk about Paris syndrome. lower those expectations. Summer would be a good time. There are a lot of free activities going on that don't happen during the other times of the year. Specifically talking about the beaches. Located on the Seine, they offer concerts, there's outdoor movies. There are so many activities that you should look up. It's called the Paris Plages. It is a wonderful time to experience Paris in warm weather. Before we get to activities, I do want to remind you that France is the largest country in Western Europe. Paris is the capital of France. It is known for its literature, its fashion, its film, its art, its music, its architectural designs. This is a top capital city for a reason. I have spoken many times about how I like visiting the capitals of countries around the world. I mean, why do you think that they are hosting the Olympics this year? All of that to say, you are going to be overwhelmed if you have not traveled to a large city before. Some people call this the New York of Europe. I like New York, so I, of course, enjoyed my time in Paris. But if New York overwhelmed you, you probably will be overwhelmed in Paris, right? I'm going to give you a quick itinerary for you to move around the city in a couple of days, or you could even do it one day if you are short on time. I know sometimes people do not have the luxury or the leisure to do slow travel around France or around Europe. Follow this itinerary and come back, and then you can see more of it, okay? Millions of travelers come each year. I feel like the numbers are going to skyrocket for 2024 because of the Olympics. So I do want you to be mindful. That's my phrase here, be mindful, be mindful. You got to think about it. First place you want to go is the Cathedral of Notre Dame. This is a lovely structure. You're going to be able to take photos. They did suffer from a fire in April of 2019. You are not going to be able to go inside because of that fire that had happened. From there, I would go to museums. You could also look into the museum pass that they have. I am going to get to the Louvre later on, but you could walk around and check out the art if you're an art lover. See all of the museums that they have with the museum pass. Then you're going to want to go to the cafe. This can be found on Boulevard Germain. The cafe culture in Paris is out of this world. Just being able to sit, get a coffee, a hot chocolate, eat some baguette. This is what I think of when I go to Paris and people watch. I could just go to Paris, not even see the attractions, and just sit in a cafe and I'll be good to go. This is a good time for you to sit down, take a break, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking with this itinerary, you guys. Once you have rested and sat down, hopefully ate a bit, it's time for you to go to the Louvre. This is where you're going to be able to see the Mona Lisa. The Mona Lisa is tiny. There's going to be crowds of people in there. And I don't want you to get your hopes up and then you're just going to be like, ugh, that's the Mona Lisa? That's so small. I know I didn't wait in line and waste my time just for this. This is a part of Paris and you might be disappointed, but there's other parts of the museum that would be good for you to visit as well. If you don't want to start out with the Mona Lisa, just know in mind, hey, this is going to be something small and it is up to you if you decide to skip it. This is your trip. But you cannot miss the Louvre. Even going outside to take pictures of the structure, the way it's designed is lovely. I was very tired and exhausted this entire trip. I was doing too much. I was only there a couple of days and I did not wear proper shoes. I had on these ballet flats. At the time I was studying in Spain. So I kind of adopted the European fashion, if you will. And all I did was go to Zara and Mango. Like those were my two budget trendy stores where I could still be in the fashions, but it didn't cost too much. And for some reason I thought, oh, let me wear some ballet flats and walk around Paris with no cushion on my foot. What was I thinking about? After you sit at the Louvre, even the Louvre, they had benches where I would sit down because I would look at the art. I'm like, oh, my feet hurt. Sit down, get up, walk again, sit down, get up, get in line to see the Mona Lisa. Oh, wow, I saw the Mona Lisa. Sit down because my feet hurt so bad. And I hadn't even seen half of the city yet. After going to the Louvre, you might want to stroll through the gardens. The gardens in Paris are absolutely delightful. They're beautiful. There's so much green and lush plants and bushes, greenery for you to see. I am going to recommend that you go to Tuileries. Side note, if you have time, take a day trip to Versailles. I love Versailles more than Paris. Versailles was so beautiful. I'll do a video on that in the future. You can go to Luxembourg. as well. The gardens are beautifully manicured. You can sit down. Having a picnic in Paris is the most romantic thing ever, and just people watch. If you don't have a Parisian boo, I think people watching is one of the top activities to do in Paris. And the way that they picnic or the way that they park, it is just so posh and luxurious. You have to experience a picnic in the park if you're in Paris. And it's a good way for you to rest, because what's coming up next is going to be the famous Avenue des Champs-Élysées. Champs-Élysées. Y'all know I don't speak no French. This is where you're going to have all of the fancy hotels. You're going to see the fancy stores. This is money. Might as well just call this Money Street. What I like to do is go to the Four Seasons and go into their lobby. It is so beautiful just seeing how they have the floral arrangements. I will never forget that. Shout out to whoever told me to go to the Four Seasons lobby way back in the day. You could also window shop. This is a fashion capital, but you're going to have to be able to pay those euros. I've heard that it is cheaper for you to get Louis Vuitton in Paris. So if you are into shopping, this is where you want to go. Of course, you could take some pictures of the beautiful Seine. You will see all of the boats. You could do a boat tour on the river. That would be something to do as well. After walking up and down Money Street, money! I would say that it's time for you to see the Victory Arch. This is none other than the Arc de Triomphe. It's right in the middle of the road. Y'all, don't be all up in the road. There are cars surrounding this structure. And that is dangerous. Who is going to be jutting out in the middle of the street just for photos? There are other vantage points that you can go to where you will still have the arc in the picture, but your foot is not run over because of it. From there, you are going to take the metro to Trocadero. Once you have made it to Trocadero station, cross the river, and I'm saving the best for last. This is the symbol of France, the Eiffel Tower. Have you even gone to Paris if you did not visit the Eiffel Tower? Come on. Now, back then, I was not thinking about the best vantage points or outfits. I still don't care about outfits to an extent. I wasn't thinking about social media. I was just like, I am in Paris. This is a bucket list destination for people. I want to see the Eiffel Tower. So I was right under it. My pictures were not good, y'all. I've actually lost all of my pictures. That's why I was wondering, how am I going to talk about these destinations if I don't have the B-roll? Shout out to Pixabay, Pexels, because y'all helping me out on this one. What I was able to do was give my phone, now later in safety, I'm going to say, I don't know if you should be doing this, to fellow tourists just so they could get me on the steps. I was right in front of it, but if you're right underneath it, you're not going to be able to get the entire structure of the tower. So I would say you might want to go to other vantage points that you could look up. Some of the influencers will tell you, if they're not gatekeeping, the best places for you to get the Eiffel Tower in the background for your photos. If you want to go to the second floor, you're going to get a beautiful viewpoint. By the end of the day, my feet and legs were tired, and I was walking around in those ballet flats. I did not go to the top. I would say those are going to be the landmarks that you want to go to first. You could do in a day, if you were moving quickly and you started your day early, you could split it up into 2 days. And then if you were able to see them in a day, the next day you could do your trip to Versailles. Okay. So again, Notre Dame, Museo de Cluny, you can go sit at a cafe to eat, go to the Louvre, see a beautiful garden. Then you want to go to Champs-Élysées, Money Street. And of course, visit the Arc de Triomphe, snap some photos of that, and save your energy so that you can see the Eiffel Tower. Also, see if you could look at the Eiffel Tower at night. It is magical. Paris, because it is the capital of France, I've talked about these country capitals, they usually have the best transport. It's built in for the city. It's built with tourists in mind for you to get around. Let me give you a few tips on how to navigate the city's public transportation. Paris has a metro. There is a bus. You can take the trains to get around Paris and to get around Europe. Walking is going to be a great way to get around. And of course, taxis, but that's going to be the most expensive. There's also boats. And then you know how they have the big bus tours. I would stay away from that from Paris. I liked walking on foot, just strolling people watching. But if you're short on time, you could definitely use the metro. I think I did the metro and walking when I was in Paris. If you do not live in a large city, again, you have not been to New York, the metro could overwhelm you. You could be a bit confused. So I do have a New York video where I talk about how to use the metro just to get yourself accustomed. But if this is your first time using the metro in Paris, do not worry. I have you covered. The metro lines, it has a number and it's going to have the name of the station for your destination. You can buy a book of 10 tickets or you can buy an individual ticket. These are the paper tickets. I heard that these paper tickets were being phased out, but 2024 for the Olympics, I still believe they are using the paper tickets. Y'all correct me in the comments if I am wrong about this. You can also get a pass that is good for a month or a week, depending on how long you are planning on staying. If you are getting the individual paper ticket, do not throw it away. You could be fined at the end of your trip when you are leaving, and the conductor, if he comes and asks you about it, you pretty much are going to be fined. And you do not want to be caught scrambling around in the trash trying to look for that ticket. It's embarrassing too. Keep that ticket in your hand, keep it in your pocket, and make sure that you don't forget to validate it. This also goes for the train stations. They have the yellow machines where you are going to be given your paper ticket. Do not lose this thing, y'all. And you could keep it as a nice souvenir. If you do want to toss it, make sure you have left the station. I've seen people confused. They are just standing in the middle blocking other tourists and passengers because they couldn't find their ticket. You're just like, oh man, I wish they had watched on YouTube what to do with the Paris Metro. I can imagine what it's going to be like during the Olympics. I would avoid it. Too much chaos going on. They do offer the high-speed trains. I'm talking about the TGV. When I was in Belgium at the hostel in Brussels, some girls were telling me, oh man, you should have gone to Paris. That's what we're going to do. It just takes an hour and a half on the high-speed train. All right, and you could just go north to Belgium. That would be lovely too if you had time. I don't like rushing through cities and capitals. That's an advantage of Europe, being able to travel around the continent. You guys are really blessed being able to go to London, Belgium, Paris, Switzerland. The opportunities are endless with Europe train travel. There is the National French Railroad that links cities around France as well. And I took the train to get to Versailles. I had to do a day trip for it. I was not going to be in France and not see Versailles. I had heard too many recommendations and I was like, I got to go to Paris. Next is Versailles. Do you have any recommendations of where I should go next? Those are really the only main places that I've gone to in France. And then I started venturing out to other parts of Europe. So y'all let me know. I did forget about the Paris visit card. You can get unlimited rides on the train, or you can get 1, 2, 3, or 5 days. Quickly talking about the Paris syndrome. This actually was with groups of Japanese tourists who were so excited and looking forward to going to Paris. But when they got there, they might have encountered some unfortunate smells, had high expectations for the Mona Lisa, waiting in line and being disappointed when you see how small it is. This is Paris syndrome. There might be some disappointments. You know how the movies romanticize it and make it think it's just so lovely. But honey, there's going to be some surprises too, all right? Sometimes some parts of it smell like urine. I like to compare it to New York. It's the New York of Europe. New York don't smell amazing all the time either. It's not always going to smell like bread and cheese and perfume. This is a large city, okay? The things that I do want you to watch out for as far as safety tips are the pickpockets. When I was at the Eiffel Tower, I was young. I was in my 20s. I was so excited, but I was kind of green. I didn't really have all this information that I do now after traveling, 45 countries. And I was just walking around, and there are these gypsies who were following me and really made me uncomfortable, you guys. And I was like, I don't know if I'm going back to the Eiffel Tower ever again just because of them. And they're walking up to you, they're asking for money, they're begging. And if you just say no, they still are very aggressive and pushy. Same can happen around the Eiffel Tower or the Louvre, people selling umbrellas. They're really pushy and aggressive with this. I don't know if this happens if you speak some French. I'm not going to call them scammers because they have to make a living too, but they are heavily relying on getting the tourist money. I don't even have any recommendations for this. For safety, I know you're going to have your phone, your cameras out because you want to get as much footage of Paris. Be mindful. Be mindful of these people pickpocketing. Be mindful of the gypsies. Be mindful of people selling umbrellas. They are going to want to get money from you. What I like to do is wear a money belt inside of my pants. Hide your cash. They're trying to get everybody out here. There's an influencer on TikTok where he likes to bash locations in Europe. He's done it for London. He's done it for Paris. And I'm not really going to say watch his content. I'm definitely not going to talk negatively about it because I'm a world traveler. I am going to see every capital in the world. And y'all going to help me by supporting the channel. Even with the scamming going on or the people begging for money, that's expected when you're visiting a large city like Paris. When you're talking about the French people, are they rude and snobby? I don't think so. Did I speak French while I was there? No. Did I learn some phrases? No. I was in my 20s back then. I wasn't really thinking about that. If I were to go back in the future, I would try some basic phrases like bonjour, au revoir. Some of them are limited in their English, guys. So I would try to study some of that Duolingo French. They might look at you like, what are you talking about? But at least you are putting forth effort to communicate. You are in France. I think the people are going to generally be helpful. They're used to tourists being in their city. I did not have any negative interactions with the French. The food. As a vegetarian, you're probably like, what is there to eat besides baguette and cheese in Paris? When you visit any major capital of the world, that is where it's going to be the largest options for you as a plant-based eater. There's over 700 vegan vegetarian restaurants in Paris alone. I have researched a few of them from Happy Cow. Let me share them with you. There's Les Merha. This is where you can get cold dishes and hot dishes. It's kind of like a buffet. Side note, I love how Europe has buffets in their restaurant. And it's pay by weight. I've done that in Spain, Italy, here in France. It's amazing. 42 Degrees. This is a raw food restaurant for the 100% vegans, not half, sometimes veg, sometimes fish. You could go here for a wholesome meal. And they have vegan coffee shops. Check out Cloud Cakes. I think that would be a nice experience. The bakeries. Some of the influencers talk about the bad smells of Paris. Let's talk about the good ones. Go by the bakeries and smell that bread. Get you a fresh croissant, however they pronounce it. It is going to change your life. You put that in your mouth and let the flakes melt on your tongue. I said the flakes. The flaky pastry. I could just go there and eat bread all day, every day. It's not healthy, but it is so good in Paris. Other foods to get would be some of the crepes. They have a lot of good egg dishes there. I'm not really into egg like that, but it's very common in French cuisine. You could try the French onion soup. There's quiche. Of course, the pastries and the desserts, the macarons, the eclairs. You could sign up for a vegan food tour. I think that would be lovely. You could save money and go to the markets. You could get your own little sweets and treats and go to a picnic in the park. Wine is cheaper in Paris than it is in the States. So you are going to be able to save some money if you make your own meals. This is what budget travelers do at the hostels too. I've talked about where you could have lunch. That is a way where you can save money rather than paying more for dinner. Also, in these European cities, you guys, they like for the diner to sit and enjoy their meal, no matter how long it takes. It's not like they're rushing you out to get other tables to come in like it is back home in the States. When you are finished with your meal, that is when you would go pay. Like they're not just going to quickly come and bring you the check. It is the dining culture that's different in France and other parts of Europe. Paris is a joy to see for the first time. As a solo traveler, I want you to enjoy being alone. Soak up the city as much as you can. It is your trip. You don't have to go to these places that I recommended. All I am doing is showing you how comfortable and easy it is for you to move around as a woman, as a solo traveler, and collecting those stamps, okay? We all deserve to see the world, and Paris is high at the top of that list. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you want to join the community here. Be sure to watch this video if you are still looking for destinations to travel solo. As always, I am so appreciative for my subs. You guys are the best and give me inspiration for continuing my journey with this channel. Thanks again for watching, and I'm going to see you next time.